Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel for those who are returning, and welcome for the first time to those who are just joining. And thanks for coming. I'm Emily Williams. I'm coming to you from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And this is Flosstube and Variety Show number 6. And because it's Flosstube, you can expect to hear about cross-stitch, and because it's a variety show, you can expect to hear about other things. We'll see what they are today. So first, I'll talk a little bit about cross-stitch I've been working on. So it's been 2 weeks since I brought a video. Some of you who are my local friends know that we had a tragic death in our very close circle, and so that put me off my game in many ways, but I'm back today. The first one I want to show you is Temperature Tree by StitchinMommy. She has an Etsy shop and a very interesting YouTube channel, and this is how far I have gotten. As you can see, let me get back a little, I did make my way up to the June branch, and then I worked backwards May, April, and March. So if you start at the top, that's June, May, April, March. And then the two little stubs are for February and January, and then on the other side, the stubs are for the other months. And I also have been stitching most of the days. So May lacks 3 dates, and June is complete through, I think, 2 days ago. At some point, another video, I will show you my full thread palette once I get maybe back down to January, so more of it will show in the stitching. But basically, at this point, the darker red colors are colder temperatures, and the lighter yellows are warmer temperatures. And we've had a couple of days that have had highs above 90. The range of temperatures, I'm using the varied range in the pattern. It's every 4 degrees is a different color. And because I didn't have most of the colors that the designer recommended, I went with my own colors. And that's why I'll show you some other time. So the next one I'm going to show you is the 2021 Linens and Threads Talavera sampler, mystery sampler. So this is the same image that I showed you last time, because the June block had been released, which I think this is the June one. I'm behind on stitching it by quite a bit because I started late. I wanted to watch and see what other colors people were using, but I did do the May block, which is this one, and I'm really pleased with how that turned out. I think that might be my favorite of the ones I've done so far. So my plans on this are to start the column over on the far side of it, because I frankly haven't 100% decided what I'm going to do in the middle, and do the June block, which will be in that blank spot there. On July 1st, the next block will be released. I don't mind doing this behind, because I like to sort of get a balance in my color selection, and I just think it's easier if I am not racing through. And finally, I'm going to show you Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather, which is based on a painting. And I mentioned in maybe my first video why this painting is interesting to me, charted by Golden Kite. So my goal on this, I want to finish it in about 2 years. It's 72,000 stitches, so that's about 100 stitches a day. So that should be 700 stitches a week. But since I showed this to you last, I've only done 700 stitches. But I think you can start to see the dimension of it. In fact, farther back, when I look at it on the screen, I can see it better than when I'm stitching it. So this is where I am on this. I've been working down in this area here, and frankly, there's no point in me showing it, because the closer I get, the less it means. I've made a couple of mistakes, but you know, it's so much gray. I really think in the scheme of things, in 72,000 stitches, if I have 6 stitches that are not exactly the right shade of gray, I don't think it's going to matter. So coming up in, I'm in a Facebook group called Full Coverage Fanatics. Full coverage meaning cross-stitch where every part of the fabric is stitched. And they have a number of fun challenges and activities to do that the goal, or the idea is you post a before and after picture and you try to achieve whatever the goal of that particular activity is. It's motivational for people who like to quantify their progress, which that's me. I like quantifying things. So the thing that is coming up now in the full coverage fanatics group is a Tour de France challenge. The idea being, so it starts this Saturday, the Tour de France in the actual cycling race starts this Saturday, and these colors represent climbing stages or sprint stages, and then the whole race ends down here on July 18th. And the total race this particular year, maybe it's similar every year, is 3,418 kilometers. The sprint stages total 1,489 kilometers, and the climbing stages total 1,979 kilometers. So those are in the Full Coverage Fanatics event. Those are 3 possible goals for your stitching, to stitch that number of stitches, 1 stitch per kilometer. So that is 23 days, I think, and my normal pace should be 2,300 stitches in 23 days. So I decided to aim for 3,400 stitches, i.e. the full race, the yellow jersey, if you will, to finish the whole thing, the 3,400 stitches. So what does that even mean? Well, just to give a little bit of perspective, where I have this gridded, those are 10 by 10 blocks. And so each of those has 100 stitches in it. So that would be 34 blocks. So that's something. That would be 5% of the whole thing. So I think that if I wait until the end of the Tour de France cross-stitching event to show it to you, you'll see quite a difference, assuming I achieve 3,400 stitches, 3,418 stitches in that time. So we'll see. Hopefully I will. Okay, so I have notes over here about what I wanted to talk about, and timing is good. So I want to continue to mention YouTube channels that have been of interest to me over the past couple of years. And I especially want this time to mention channels that have been, that are really good ones for quilting. And now, as you know, if you've watched me before, I do quite a bit of quilt making, piecing and quilting. My friend and I have a long arm quilting machine, and we have a business quilting quilts for other people. And I've learned a lot from some particular YouTube channels about piecing quilts and quilting quilts. So there are 3 big sort of, I'll call them big store type shops. They're retail outlets that have a large YouTube presence that's helpful to quilters. It's not just selling products. It's really helpful. You learn a lot. So the first one is Missouri Star Quilt Company. And Jenny Doan is the main YouTube presence there, although her daughter-in-law Misty and her daughter Natalie are also, they have their own parts of the YouTube channel presence of that shop. Excellent tutorials, excellent ideas, especially if you're interested in using pre-cuts. For instance, 10-inch squares, which are sometimes called layer cakes, or 2.5-inch strips, which are sometimes called jelly rolls, things like that. That's an excellent channel to get ideas and instruction in how to make quilts using pre-cuts especially, but really any kind of quilts. Lots of good content there. Another one is the Fat Quarter Shop. Kimberly Jolly does weekly, basically real-time tutorials in making particular blocks. She has some, I'll say, non-standard quilt techniques. That is, quilters don't necessarily universally do the things that she does, but her results are excellent. Very crisp points and accurate blocks. So maybe we should all do more of what she does. But anyway, that's Fat Quarter Shop. She also has a cross-stitch channel in addition to that. I don't know how she does all that she does, because she makes many quilts and quilt blocks, and she does a ton of cross-stitching. And I'm retired, and I don't do as much as she does, so it's pretty amazing. She has also some kids. And then finally, Jordan Fabrics. Donna Jordan of Jordan Fabrics, she puts out a tutorial maybe every other week, roughly. And the thing that I really appreciate about hers are she actually teaches you what to do. She doesn't just do it assuming that you have basic knowledge. She actually assumes, what she assumes is that you know how to sew a straight line on your sewing machine, and you know how to use, in a basic way, a rotary cutter and a rotary cutter type ruler. But she really explains many of the things that other YouTube people gloss over. And I think that if you were to want to be a beginning quilt piecer, that would be a great channel. That's Jordan Fabrics on YouTube. So those are three I really like for different reasons, as you see. So that was Variety Show Part 1, and Variety Show Part 2 is another segment on games. I love to play games. As I mentioned in a couple of videos ago where I talked about games, if you come to my house, you'll probably be invited to play a game, and it probably will be a game that you did not play the last time you came to my house. So anyway, but here I want to talk about a particular category of games called cooperative games. So the basic idea of a game is that the players are competing to win. And in a normal game, a traditional game, the players are competing against each other, and the players have similar opportunities. That is, they have similar characteristics to start with, and they're trying to make the best of either improving their characteristics or the luck of the game, and some balance of that. But in a cooperative game, the players each have a different role usually, and the group of players are trying to beat the game. It's sort of like a scenario where the players are working cooperatively to beat the game. So I wanted to show you some cooperative games that our family has played over the years. Now this is a classic. The Lord of the Rings. I would call it a card/board game. It has cards. It's for two to five players, I believe. Yes. This is not a brief game. This is not a quickie. This one will take some time, but it's a quite a good representation of the journey of the hobbits through their many perils and the many locations that they visit in order to destroy the ring. And so your goal in the game is to resist being corrupted by Sauron while you make your way to Mordor to destroy the ring. So we've enjoyed that one quite a lot. Another one that we've enjoyed, again, this is not a brief game, is called Shadows over Camelot. By the way, I give as much information as is reasonable and that I can in the description box for each video of what I talk about. So you'll have information about these games down there. In this game, the players are each playing the role of one of the knights of the round table. And cooperatively, the knights are trying to save Camelot from being overrun by the evil hordes. And there are some individual quests, or individual knights against the Black Knight or something else, which I don't remember the detail of that one. And maybe there might be a dragon in there. And you're trying to get the Grail, you're trying to get the sword, Excalibur, in order to win. The twist is that after you've played it a couple times, just that way, the way I described, one of the knights is a traitor, secretly a traitor, and is secretly undermining the efforts of the rest of the knights in hopes of preventing the quests from being fulfilled. We actually have enjoyed this game just fine without having a traitor, but I can imagine that if you play it a lot with the same group of people, having a traitor would make it more interesting, you know, on the 50th play. Another game, this is very popular. I mean, it's kind of funny. I mean, not funny, but ironic. Let's say ironic. This game came out some years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. This is an excellent game. The players, up to 4 players, are trying to prevent disease from overtaking the world. That's good, isn't it? The mechanics of the game involve moving your marker, your player marker, to different places in the world, and you can do certain things. You can treat disease in that place. You can do research for finding a cure, and you can something else. And each of the characters, each player in the game has different abilities, depending on whether they chose the scientist or the transportation specialist or the communication specialist character for the game. So you're trying to work together to prevent the disease from overrunning the world. It's hard to win it. My husband and I have played it several times with 2 players, but playing 4 characters, and we can win the game. It's extremely realistic type way that disease spreads in the game mechanic, and this game has been praised by epidemiologists in terms of its reality. So you may really enjoy this game right now, or you may really not want to play this game right now. There's some expansions for this which add complexity, and there's also some seasons where you play. It's called a I can't think of what it's called. A legacy game, maybe, where when you play it, you actually alter the game, and then the next time you play it, you start with the altered conditions. And it's a programmed set of scenarios, which we played with some close friends of ours a few years ago. It was long and hard, but very interesting. And then finally, if you want something that's shorter and easier, Hanabi is a game that we enjoy. Now, this game is a logic cooperative game, and the scenario is that you're trying to create a fireworks display before the fuse burns out and sets it all off. So you're building it while the fuse is lit. That's smart, right? And the mechanic is each player has cards in their hand that they cannot see, but the other players see, and you take turns giving information to each other. So you either play a card in the tableau, you discard a card in order to get back a questioning token, or you use a questioning token to give somebody information, or an information token, not questioning. You're not asking a question, you're telling somebody something. And it's quite interesting. It's a quiet, thoughtful game. It takes maybe 20 minutes, and it's different every time because it just is, you know, how those things go. So those are 4 games in the category of cooperative games. If you don't like diplomacy kind of games, or games where discussing things with each other is part of the game, you won't really like cooperative games. Another weakness of cooperative games is that it is possible for the player who's the most experienced or the quickest to dominate the decisions of all the other players, because there are usually parts of the rules that say what kinds of information you can give in order to try to create independence among the players, but most gaming groups develop their own twists on those based on the personalities of the gamers. So that might not suit you, but it might be a great way to have a fun afternoon with friends and it be less competitive and more working together. And it's also, actually, they're pretty easy to teach, those games, if you've already played them once, because you are working together. So you don't have to think it all up on your own if you're a new player. Excuse me, new to the game. So thank you so much for tuning in to this video. I'm sorry it's a little longer than usual. I appreciate you watching. Please pass the word if people are interested in cross-stitch or variety. And you know pretty good cross-section of the kind of variety that I might talk about, although believe me, there's more topics. I have many more things of interest. At least, as I say before, of interest to me, and therefore they might be of interest to you. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Please comment if you wish to. The like button, all those things. If you watch YouTube videos, you know all of that stuff. And many blessings to you, friends.